So you've gone online and decided to research how to build more muscle. Or let's just say you went to the gym and you asked for advice from some other lifters. And I bet all you've heard or read online is that muscle is built through progressive overload, which is true. But most people, gym rats included, only have a basic understanding of what progressive overload actually means. They assume it simply means adding more weight to the bar or keeping the same weight but adding additional reps. And that is one form of progressive overload. The problem is, no one can keep doing that forever. And if your training program relies on just that one form of progressive overload, and you have to add weight to the bar every single workout or every single week just to keep progressing, and you're not a ranked beginner, you're gonna stall out very fast. And most people in the gym, they get stuck in this same cycle over and over again, which is why ultimately they never get past the beginner or intermediate stages of bodybuilding. For advanced bodybuilders, we actually have to focus on two forms of progressive overload. The first is acute overload, which is what I just previously described, where you're performing more work in one single session. This can cause an acute effect on muscle growth. This can be done by adding more weight to the bar and performing the same amount of reps that you've done previously with a lighter weight. It could also be using the same weight that you have previously, but adding in additional reps or additional sets with that same weight. This is a form of progressive overload through volume. And both of these things are good. You should be doing these things in your training already. But this next form of progressive overload, one that's not spoken about often enough, is what you need to be focusing on if you're advanced. And that is what I personally call sustained progressive overload. This is done by performing more work over time, not in one single session. And in most cases, an entire training block or mesocycle, which is roughly 6 to 8 weeks long. And this should also be performed over an entire training cycle or macro cycle, which is multiple training blocks stacked together, usually lasting 6 to 12 months at a time. So let me explain this concept a bit more so you can take this information and apply it to your training right now. Let's assume you're already focusing on the things you should be in the gym, adding weight to the bar or adding reps when you can, focusing on acute overload. And let's say right now you're performing 10 sets per week for biceps. If over time you're completely locked in on only performing 10 sets of biceps, the only way you're gonna build more muscle is through acute overload, by adding more weight to the bar or performing more reps on barbell curls. And you can get very far by doing this, especially if you're a beginner. But at a certain point, you're gonna get strong enough where you're gonna be lucky to even add 5 pounds to the bar, as no one's continuously adding weight like that to an isolation movement past a certain point. And if you're watching this, I bet at some point you've experienced this for yourself. And no matter how hard you're training, no matter what you're doing, your strength and size is just stalling. Now, if we were to set up a long-term training program, one that would be productive, we would start that block off with 15 sets of biceps per week. Now, for that entire 6-week block of training, regardless if we're even able to add reps or weight to the bar, we progressively overload the biceps by increasing the training volume. Now, assessing your recovery and performance after that block. If you recovered fine and you could handle even more training, we're gonna push that to 20 sets per week. And then we repeat this process until we hit the ceiling of your volume tolerance, which is a topic for another video altogether. But what I want you to understand and to take away from this video is that when we progressively stack training blocks with more total work done on top of each other, we're progressively overloading that muscle over time. And the low volume, high intensity guys are gonna hate me for saying this one, but regardless if we're able to add weight to the bar or not, by training with this method, we're still forcing adaptations and growing muscle. And that's just the start of how advanced training works. Now, if you're looking to go from intermediate to advanced, you need to start applying this to your training. And if you're doing it right, it's gonna be the one thing that takes your physique to the next level. And if you need a place to start and you're looking for a program that was designed specifically to take you from intermediate to advanced in the shortest time possible, I recommend you check out my 5-day mass gain program in the description below. And as always, if you want to see more of the best original bodybuilding content just like this, make sure to hit subscribe.